It is Friday night. Once again, I'm back on the dyno. I got the 3800 still here, but today, lots of cool stuff. As you see in the thumbnail, I did a junkyard run today. Scored 2 intake manifolds. Want to go take a look at those. I've got the both of the front-wheel drive ones. I could not find a Camaro or Firebird rear-wheel drive one. I have somebody looking for one right now and hoping I can still come up with that. So right now I have 3 different NA intake manifolds running. I'm going to rerun the one with the where we hollowed out the blower, took the rotor pack out basically, and test it that way. I'm going to rerun that test, and then we're going to test the other ones NA, and then hopefully this weekend we should be running some boost with the turbo stuff. I might also run the machine the snout down and run the 2.6 pulley. I just don't know if I'm a little bit concerned with belt wrap on a 6-rib belt. The pulley that I have on there is like an 8 or a 10 rib, but the rest of the system is not designed to accept that, so it wouldn't, we still can't run an 8 or 10 rib belt on there. So I'm a little concerned spinning it that fast and making that kind of power, but that should, I'm hoping that we didn't get a big gain from the new camshaft, which you guys will be seeing a video on that fairly soon. I did something cool on the test after we put the new cam in. I ran the motor NA, and then we ran it, because we're running it NA, we ran it with the lower intake manifold for the blower, the L67 version, because there's a difference between the L67 and the L32. The L32 has a much bigger opening. We ran that lower intake manifold, and then, as I said, we hogged out took the rotor pack out of the M90 blower, made a plate for the back, and covered that. And I did also a test you saw in the latest video that I just put up, where I opened up the discharge for the blower just to see if that was an inlet restriction, and it picked up a little bit of power, not a ton. What I really wanted to find out was, is there a restriction on the inlet side? So I want to find out basically, is the throttle body too small? Now we all know that on the supercharged stuff, that's definitely a way to pick up power. Any kind of positive displacement supercharger that you have, if you're drawing air into it, you need to make that opening as big as you can. You want the flow going into the blower. You want to maximize that. You cannot have it too big. The only thing that will happen is it will be very responsive when you crack the throttle open. But you want that to be gigantic. So however big you can make that, that would be good. So the question is, what about on the NA motor? Is the throttle body, in this case we have the early Series 2 motor, so we have the M90 supercharger with the throttle body and mass air meter that's smaller than the Gen 4 version. So is that throttle body mass air still restrictive even on an NA version? So I wanted to find that out. So, and I'm doing a video on this. So the question is, how do you find out if the throttle body is too small, other than hogging the opening out and then, either buying an adapter or machining it to accept another kind of throttle body? Like, I would love to put a 102 millimeter LS throttle body on there, or even a 90 millimeter throttle body, or a 92 millimeter LS throttle body would be fantastic. But the rest of the opening would have to be that big also. So that would take a little bit of work given the wall thickness that's around there. There's not a lot of meat to work with unless you cut the snout of the blower off and get past to the point where it starts to grow. That's a possibility. But there's a better way to do that. There's a better way to figure out if that system needs more airflow. And the way that I did that is we made a run, and then what we had was we were just holding the plate against the opening, against the backside where the rotor pack is, of that intake manifold. And then when you go to wide open throttle, because when you're at part throttle, there's a lot of vacuum there, and that plate has a lot of surface area, and it just holds the plate in place. So, but when you go to wide open throttle, it just releases the plate because we didn't have it bolted on. So Eddie from West Tech, I said, okay, I want you to stand in there, and when I go to full throttle, just grab the plate and pull it out of the way and just walk off. And so that's what we did, and basically it just opened up that whole backside of the plate, or the whole backside of the blower opening. And that tells us, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that gives us more airflow than we can get from any size throttle body. Because now the whole back side of that thing is open up. It's basically you've opened up the garage door on the intake manifold. And so that would tell us if we needed more airflow, and as it turned out, and you'll see in the video, we definitely did. It definitely picked up power. So that tells me two things. It tells me, one, that a bigger throttle body you would definitely benefit from that. So I'm thinking about just putting a throttle body onto the plate, a bigger one, because it'd be a lot easier to do that than on the other side, because the other side is restrictive the way that it has to go up into the blower. So you don't actually want to get your airflow through that, because it would be, unless you went out in there and machined it all, it's just not an ideal way to go. Going through this front side, and also if you're putting in a rear-wheel drive car, it'd make more sense to put it on the front side anyway. So I'm thinking about doing that. But it also tells me that that inlet into the blower on a supercharged application is going to be even more restrictive. So the blower needs more airflow going in. Even the M90 would benefit a lot from having a lot of airflow going into it. Whatever could be done to get the airflow in, and then I would work on the outlet side with the porting and stuff that's done to the little flying V that they have there. That would be important. But in my opinion, judging by the results of this throttle body test, that the air going into the blower is much more critical. And we've seen that time and time again, because I've run lots of tests on positive displacement blowers, Kenny Bells and Whipples and Eatons and various different kinds of superchargers. And whenever we make a bigger inlet system, whether that inlet system is the air intake, a big 4-inch or 4.5-inch tube, a big mass air meter that has a mass air meter, a giant sized throttle body, whenever I've done those tests, whenever we increase the airflow into the blower, even without changing the pulley, we see a big change in power. And we saw that even on an NA motor. And if we saw it on an NA motor, I have to believe that there's big power to be had by freeing up more airflow into the supercharger once we get there. And as we spin that blower up faster and faster, this becomes more and more critical. So that's something to think about on the M90s. Obviously, that would be one of the benefits of putting a bigger blower on, because with the bigger blower, we could also have a bigger inlet. And some of them are designed to accept, giant sized air intakes. At least a 90, but like a 105 would be good. And I've even run dual 105s on some of the Kenny Bell stuff way back in the day. So that worked out really good. But let's go in and take a look at the different intakes we got from the wrecking yard today. Because, every day at the junkyard's a good day. So go in here and take a look. So we've got the early one, which has the combination throttle body mass air. This one has it. This is the later drive-by wire one. This is the aluminum one. We obviously have the one here we go. We have the one that I've been talking about, and this is the plate I was talking about that we removed. When we removed that plate, that's when we got a lot of airflow, and that's actually where I want to put a throttle body, because that would be the front side basically for a rear-wheel drive car. Both of these other manifolds are front-wheel drive applications, just like this one was with the supercharger. So I'm wondering how the airflow is with the different size throttle bodies. I need to measure the throttle openings on these to find out what size they are. I also want to find out if this throttle body on the NA version, on the later one, is the same size as the throttle body that we have here on the supercharger. I don't think it is, but I want to see if the bolt pattern is the same, because that would be another way. If the throttle body on the blower is bigger than the throttle body on the NA intake manifold, and the bolt pattern is the same, maybe that's an upgrade, and guys out there in 3800 land may already know that. You can see I have this thing now back together. And the interesting thing is, you'll see when we walk over here, these look like, you can see, those look like the cylinder heads that were on it yesterday. In fact, they are. Yes, this one has new heads on it. It has ported heads on it. Unfortunately, there's a story there too, and that will be in the video. But these heads that I had ported didn't turn out nearly as well as I hoped. In fact, they didn't even flow as well as the one port that I hand ported. So I put them on, and we're going to run them anyway. We're going to find out what they do compared to the stock heads that we pulled off of there. We'll find out. I don't know. The other good thing about the head porting deal is that I'm going to send these heads. I talked to Eric Weingartner today, and I'm going to send these heads out to him and see if he can work his magic on it, which would be awesome because he seems like a great guy. And we're going to do some more stories together. In fact, Eric was asking me about one intake manifold in particular that he wanted to test. And I think it's a good idea. The guys from West Tech have run it before, but I never have. So I actually want to try it, and I want to compare it to something else, and I'm going to take a look. I'm going to try to find it for you. I thought that it was here in the house of intakes. So we'll take a look. No, not that. Not that. Not that. I thought that Steve said that they had one. The intake manifold that I'm looking for is a dual plane-ish, but it's the twisted one that I think Jim McFarland actually designed it. And it's called the torque box or something weird. And I thought that they had one here. I was hoping I could show it to you guys, but I don't see it. Oh, here we go. I did find it. They do have it. So we'll take a walk over here. I'll show it to you. So let me know what you guys think. This is the intake manifold. So you can see kind of a single plane, kind of a dual plane, long runners. It's got high-tech casting on it, but I have never run one, and Eric said he's wanted to try one, so I'm going to do that. Also, we might be testing some port matching and stuff coming up, so I'm excited about doing some stuff with Eric. I like watching his videos. I like guys that actually do stuff and then test it and do stuff and test it. So that's good stuff. And we'll probably compare that manifold. Dan, did you try one of those? How bad was it? I really like the design, and I want it to work. Because like if you look in here, let's look in here. You'll notice it even has the dimples. It has the golf ball effect. Take a look at that. So you got these and these coming up into here. You got these down here, wrapping around, coming into the bottom down there, and you got the golf balls. Because we all know dimples make power. Yep, we're going to start the dimple thing again. But we're going to compare that to, we got lots of intake manifolds here. We'll compare that to like an RPM air gap or something like that and see how it does compared to an intake manifold that we know works really well. So what do we got going on? Oh, I wanted to show you the other thing I have that somebody sent me, and thank you for the gentleman that sent me these. I'm going to open these up so I can show you. These are the, I don't know if they're port stuffers or whatever, what the heck they're called, but we'll go open these up, and I'm going to open up one of the intake manifolds back there and show you. It was interesting when I went to the wrecking yard today. I pulled those two intake manifolds from two front-wheel drive applications, and it was amazing how much the second manifold I pulled, how much faster that was than the first one. You know, we always learn what we're doing, and then once I learned that, I was like, oh, this is actually not hard at all. It's a whole different thing working on the car than it is working on the engine on the dyno. It's a lot easier to do it on the dyno. So I'm going to try to get you guys set up here so I can get some stuff done. Jeff Smith's in the house. This is a lot of packaging. This is awesome. So these are kind of cool. And I'll show you how they go in, I guess. We'll go ahead and I'm going to get the tools and take this thing off. All right, let's buzz these off. I made sure that when I was at the wreck yard, made sure to get the fuel rails and throttle bodies just so we wouldn't have any problems running them. So here we go, the big reveal. As you can see, there's a lot of oil in there. In fact, the lower intake manifold was basically full of oil. Still see some in there. Watch, it'll drain out. This is actually, I've already drained it. You can see it pouring out there. Good stuff, huh? Nice. So having never done these, I'm assuming that this is the way they go. Get you down in here. So I don't know. I'm assuming it kind of goes like that. See, now they kind of have radius entries. The runner, and then we'll just put the lid back on. But without this runner section in here, I'll go ahead and pull that off and show you. We get rid of basically all the upper, oh, the red is for the aluminum, okay. So I've just been told what's going on here. It looks like it fits though. Let's see here. This doesn't seem to work very well. That doesn't seem right. The other one was a perfect fit. Okay, maybe, I don't know, maybe that's it. See, and then we can get rid of that. Gasket. Perfect little spray bar for nitrous. That'd be awesome. And then these runner sections can come out, and then basically we have the short runner version there, which will be interesting. That'll actually kind of be a cool test. Yeah, runner length. Womp. So we'll go from that runner length essentially to that runner length, because none of this will come into play. That will just be common plenum again, or still common plenum stuff, so that'll be interesting. It'll be cool. So what do you guys think? If we run that test, we compare this runner length versus the factory runner length, what's going to happen? like 1,000 horsepower. Okay, so let's take apart our other one here. Like I said, got the fuel rails because they're definitely different between the two. Let's see, will that one bolt on there? Oh, it looks like it will. Nope, it will not. So see, that's why we do that. That's how we do it. This one's seriously, oh, we got another one. This one's seriously ugly. I should have tried to find a cleaner one. So again, same kind of thing. Runner's stuck up in there. Sweetness. And then, I'm not going to set that on there because that's pretty greasy. Have to definitely clean these off so they look nice, because you know that makes power. Oh, that fits nice. It's all kinds of fancy. Look at that. So actually now we got essentially 2 more intake manifolds to test, because we got long runner and short runner versions of those. So that will be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how these compare to the one with the open blower housing, because that's very short runner, because it's basically just the factory blower intake manifold. So I'm excited about doing that test. Hopefully we should be doing that pretty soon. I'm definitely going to want to clean that one off. It's it's pretty greasy. Man, these things have a ton of oil, because you got to take the lid off to access bolts that are holding the intake manifold on. And in the area where those bolts are inside the manifold, it's just full of oil. So we're going to run this. That's how, you know, that's how the junkyard is. It's not pretty. But I do like spending time over there. It's awesome. So we have right now, the motor has the new cam, the ZZP cam. It has ported heads. It has the intercooler. It has a blower. It has a 3-inch pulley. It has the headers. So we'll see what kind of power that makes. And we'll be doing a video on that stuff as well. And then what I'll do probably is take this pulley off, take the 3-inch pulley off, and then we'll put the 2.6 pulley on there. I'll just grind down the hub as much as I need to do. I could do it with it on the dyno, it'll be fine. You know, because that's how we do it. That would be fine, and then we can put the small pulley on there. Hopefully we don't get a lot of belt slippage, because this thing is going to want to run to, I don't know, 63 or 6400. We've run it as high as 6700, and it's still making fairly good power up there. I can tell you this, though, that the, you're going to break some lobes off a Truck Norris camera, 3800. I know, that would be fun. I can tell you that when we put the new cam in, we put the ZZP cam in compared to the smaller comp cam, so we went from a 210, 220 to the 220, 230, we dropped boost by about 1.5 pounds, so it's quite a bit. Big drop in boost, yo. Okay, what else we got going? I got lots of intake stuff over there. I'm excited now about the long runner, short runner, and the intake deal. I think that will be fun. I hope that I can find I really hope that I can find a rear-wheel drive version. And obviously I know guys are going to bring up, you need to get a hold of the Australian manifold, although I just don't know. Two things are the problem with that. It's in Australia, and I don't know how available it is here, and I just don't know, are people using that a lot here? And after doing this testing with those 3 manifolds, we should have a fairly good idea on what's going on with the intakes, and then I can do my remove the plate test again and see if that is the best combination, because I picked up a fairly good bit of power. You can see on the dyno, it's our nitrous run. Frosty beverage. So it's Friday. Let's see what you guys got going on to bring this down a little bit. You know, make it a little intimate. Bring that over just a little bit so you can see you always got to see the dyno graph, right? Can I add nitrous to a stock intake? Yes. Sloppy Mechanics does have a new cam. I'm very familiar with it. And I will be testing it. Restriction is not your friend. No, it's not. I still have the Buick 455. It's just not put back together yet. It's 28 below. Well, turbos are going to work really well in that temperature. Uh, 706 heads work good. So do the 317s. So do the 799s. There's no bad factory head. The Nova is sitting at home. The insert sits on top of that gasket? Okay. I was wondering how it got secured. How far can you mill LS3 heads? Most guys don't go over 30,000s because then you start having problems with the intake bolts lining up. So somebody was saying that there was some testing done a while ago on these intake manifolds, and the F-body intake actually made less power. Thoughts on a new Silverado crank that's LS compatible? I don't know how the crank is going to increase compression unless it changes displacement. And then if it does, it's going to have different rods and pistons and stuff. So hopefully Eric was watching this and he saw that we found the intake manifold, because that'll be cool to test that. And that's an easy small block test. I'm looking for an EFI 351 intake manifold. There's a few good ones out there. The TrickFlow has some. Edelbrock, I'm sure, has some. Yeah, the drive-by-wire on the dyno. You got to do what you got to do, man. I hate this throttle body, though, because I hate the double action it has in the throttle linkage, and I want to replace it with something else. I'd like to see the cast iron 4.8 heads. I'm not familiar with cast iron 4.8 heads. I'm familiar with cast iron 6-liter heads. Which I think is a cast iron version of a 317. I don't know of any street legal, emissions legal cams for the LS. Gen 3 Hemi high ram versus the drag pack. I think the high ram probably will be better, but it would be interesting to see. I've run tests on the drag pack manifold. I have a line on a drop tank off an F-Word jet. You want to build a salt car? Those are really cool. In fact, take a look at this photo right here. Do you see that photo up there? Belly tankers. Those are kind of cool. I'd like to have a front wheel drive one though. I think that would be awesome. Definitely doing a twin charge. can get an adapter, put a North Star throttle body. I don't think the North Star is enough of a throttle body. I want something big. Those are cool though, especially the polished ones. Yeah, they were drop tanks back from World War II. Those were, and I think in the background, I don't know if you could see them, but they have, I think that those might be P-51s flying in the background. I like rotaries. Can you go too big on a throttle body? The throttle body should be sized to match whatever the opening is on the intake manifold. So whatever that is, that's what you should put on. If you only have a 90 millimeter opening in your throttle body or a 78 millimeter, it doesn't do you any good to put a 105 millimeter throttle body on it. There's a reason that the torque link was sitting on the shelf. I know, I've talked to Steve about it and they've run it and he told me what happened. I just have never run it. Yeah, the AccuFab throttle body flows more than the stock one, definitely. They should have been thinking Bonneville. Thank you very much. What's the biggest horsepower drain exhaust restriction before or after the turbo? The exhaust after the turbo is going to be more restrictive. You can get away with some fairly small, and in fact, I think the Engine Masters guys are about to do a test on different size headers with a turbo. It'll be interesting. I don't know that they're, it'll be interesting to see if they find anything with header tube diameter differences. I don't know if they will see that, but they're also testing the Holley one, I think. So that will be an interesting test. I honestly think that judging by what we've run, stock exhaust manifolds, headers, and if you restrict the exhaust out of the turbo, you definitely get restrictions. In fact, now that you bring that up, they were running a Civic today here at West Tech that has a Turbo K in it, and running a full exhaust has a dramatic effect on the power output. The original TrickFlow 460 heads, I think, are really good. I remember running some of the CNC versions of those, and they made a lot of power. And we're live. I did a little bit of work today at the wrecking yard. Actually, the worst part about all that was carrying all that back. I didn't bring a little red wagon or anything. Zentakes are surprisingly heavy carrying them all the way across with the tool bag. Have I ever tested 180 degree headers? I haven't on the dyno. They've run some on the chassis dyno, but I've never seen a test. The TrickFlow 460 heads actually came available with both exhaust patterns. You could buy the head that has the Ford pattern, or you could buy the head with a Chevy pattern. The ones that I ran had the Chevy pattern, just so it made it easier for us to hook up a really good set of headers to it. So Dan said he tested 180 degree headers and it's not worth the headaches. I think it might sound cool, but I don't know that what would be there for power. Randall was, yeah, 10 degrees may turn me off of that. I got hot over the wrecking yard today. I had to take my sweatshirt off because it was nice today. It was probably, I don't know, it was probably 70 or something. 3 feet of 3-inch. 3-inch exhaust on a 78, 75 is probably too small. Pirelli 28-inch tires. The lower intake seems similar. They might be. I haven't tried to put one on the other one. That would be an interesting test to see if they will both go on there. Yeah, I'm a little. I remember reading about the anti-reversionary headers, but if what they're talking about is the reflected wave, the scavenging wave that comes back, I don't know why you'd want to get rid of that. Step headers do, and different collector designs also work, and different lengths of tubing after the collector. There's a lot of cool stuff to be done with exhaust. '90s Mazda engines. What '90s Mazda engines do you want? I don't know what you're talking about. The best heads for the 351M, you're going to put a Cleveland head on it, so you can put a 2V, you can put a 4V. There are some aftermarket heads out there, obviously. I think Edelbrock has one. Trickflow, I think, has them. The guys over at Speedmaster have them. Somebody asked a question about the wrecking yard, but it went by too fast. I didn't get it. Uh, 13B. I'd like to do a 13B. I'd like to do on and I'd like to just do a street one and put you know, just do a turbo one. I think that would be cool. I think Edelbrock has Cleveland heads. I think they do. I'm gonna run a GT45 on this. I don't know if a 242, 248 cam, it should make peak power on a 408 at 6,000 if you have a single plane intake manifold on it. What was the old aluminum Cleveland head? The Ford Racing stuff, I don't know what their numbers were. There was never a production one that I'm aware of, but the aftermarket stuff from Ford Racing, I think that they might have had stuff. Turbo 2-rotor making 400 horsepower would be sweet. I think so too. I think it's whatever the thing makes NA, and then when you add to that and start multiplying that, it's just kind of a cool deal. And a rotary, turbo rotaries kind of sound cool. I need to work with Rob and get one up here. I don't ever see any rotaries in the wrecking yard. Mazda BP. I'm not familiar with the engine designations on the Mazda. When you're going to get a Godzilla, probably never. The GT45, I think, that is a 69 millimeter wheel. How can I get a 200 R4 to work, the kickdown cable to work? I don't know. I would be the wrong person to ask about that. You see 3 rotors for sale? I thought those were hard to come by. And I don't want to do a 3 rotor or a 4 rotor. I would just rather do a regular 2 rotor. Okay, if somebody tells me the Miata motor, I've done a lot of testing. As a matter of fact, I designed some intake manifolds. I still have some old production ones or prototype ones sitting around somewhere. And so I did some for the early and late 1.6s and 1.8s, I guess. Yeah, I do have an RB25 engine. And I want to get the 2.2 running. Aftermarket fuel injection setups, I wouldn't change it given what intake manifolds are available. I wouldn't change it for a carburetor. Yeah, the spec Miata class is really big. Yes, I did go to college. Somebody asked. When are you going to show data on Matt's best cam? That would be after we generate data on Matt's cam. Let's see some Miata 1.6 and 1.8 dynos. I've only ever run those on the chassis dyno. David, just size the turbo for whatever power output you want. Whatever you think that thing will take. If you want to make 700, then you have to have a 700 horsepower turbo. That's a GT45. If you want to make 800, 900, or 1,000, obviously you're going to pick a little bit different turbo. I've never done anything with a Ford 300. I would like to, though. Do you think an S480 is too small for a 3800? You'd need two of those, right? For twins. Flat tapping versus roller test. Yeah, an S480 is certainly a 1,200 horsepower turbo. We have one of those here. Well, Freiberger has one here, but his is a T4 hot side, and most of them are T6s. But it's easily that's a 4-digit turbo. What do you think the power limit is on the Gen 4 L76 crank? Well, we know that it's not 1,540 horsepower because we've done that before. 1,100 wheel horsepower, that seems like a lot, but the newer turbo designs are getting away with a lot on smaller wheels, or what I think are smaller wheels. Sloppy stage 2 in a 6-liter works fine. You're not going to get 600 horsepower from it, though, unless you're running boost. To make 1,000 horsepower and 10 pounds, you just need something that's divided by 1.69. That's not even a real. That's like a 650 or 700 horsepower motor. Can you spray a 250 shot on a Vortex? But the motor needs to be making pretty good power to be able to do that. It's not the strength of the motor, it's the processing power of the motor. Yeah, 750 will get you, if you start at 750, you won't need 10 pounds to get to 1,000. What's a good? Does anybody have any recommendations for a good video channel to learn EFI and boost and stuff? I will not be making my own line of cams. I think the oil that I just put in this thing, and I haven't changed it yet, I just got new stuff. I feel it probably deserves it after all these changes. I think that that's STP. I just got whatever was at Pep Boys or... What's my opinion on the Ellis trunnion upgrades? I think it's probably a good idea, especially with real high mileage ones. Yeah, the EFI University is probably a good one. Ben does good stuff over there. But there's no substitute for like real hands-on learning. I mean, you got to do it, and that's where you learn, because you make mistakes and you see it in real time and figure things out. Yeah, everybody should be subbed. They should be like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. When you're bored, can you do a video on what it is to keep a dyno cell running? That would be better for Steve Brule to do that. Any resources for finding out the flow rates of injectors? We just put them on the ASNU injector flow machine, and that tells us. How would you make power with a 4-liter AMC Jeep? A turbo probably would work, but a blower works too. 363, either a 205 or a 220 head will work on that. You can take a look at the video that I have up where we ran a 205 and a 225 head. I think that they were darts, and the 205 head did as well, because I didn't think it flowed over 300 CFM, so it's more than enough to support the power level that we were at. Any plans to test the MZR Duratec? I'm not familiar with it. There are different valve angle LS heads, and if you angle mill the head, you can also change the valve angle. Are decap stock LS injectors worth it? Yeah, we get this question all the time, and they can work, but the problem is if you decap 8 of them, you're not going to get 8 that flow the same. So you got to do a whole bunch of them. Aaron, you just saw 440 in sale for in Santa Clarita. Nice. Please do a budget LS7 build. That's like Dan's budget 917 Porsche build. Oh, okay, I know the Duratec engines, and they work pretty well. The new Vet engine looks impressive. Richard, why don't we see more flat plane LS stuff? Why would you want to do that? Last night you mentioned somebody who's messing around with the Godzilla motor. That's Evan Smith and Brian Wolf. They both have great channels, so you guys should follow them if you're not following them. Brian's done a lot of testing on the Godzilla motor. They've done a lot of cool things. I want to try to go back there. I talked to Evan when he got his wagon. I thought that he was going to have me come out and we were going to do a road trip with Evan and Camposano and I, but then I just saw the video where he already had the wagon shipped down. Apparently he didn't want to do a road trip. I'm a little offended. But I talked to him about going out there and spending some time with him and Brian and doing some dyno testing out there. I will be testing the new sloppy cam. Hollow stem valves work well. The GM crate motor looks impressive. Looks expensive. I've run a couple of the Speedmaster blocks. All the ones I've tried have worked pretty well. They do have some weird idiosyncrasies, though. No, this is just a sweatshirt that I can get dirty and I don't care about. This is my wrecking yard sweatshirt and my engine rebuilding sweatshirt and getting oil on stuff. Ooh, a Judd V10. Those did sound good. I remember doing some stuff at Daytona and with the Judds running around. The Judd sounded good. The Ferrari sounded good. The Panos were like unbearably loud, but they were Batmobiles and they were kind of awesome. Yes, a 6.2 LSA on a budget, a large budget. That would be true. That's not cheap. I know I need to do wrong cam t-shirts. If people are telling you you need thick oil for turbo applications, I don't think that that's accurate. The Panos that I'm talking about were not the Ford modulars. They were not the little school cars. These were the big boy deals. These had I think that they were 427-inch V8s in them. They were Yates or somebody did the motors for them. And they were, like I said, just crazy loud. Yep, Rev and Evan. Yeah, Dan, I've talked to Brule about those Mercury Marine engines, 1,450 horsepower. You just plop it in, but it's a couple of 100,000. Have you ever heard of Jasper engines? I have, but I don't have any opinion on them because I just have heard of them because I've seen their ads and stuff, but I don't really know anything about them. I know they come with a warranty. You can't mess with them, you can't change the tune on them or anything, but they're probably right to begin with that they're making 1,000,000 horsepower. After seeing the results of your intercooler, oh, JPL, you got another one? Nice. So you can stack a couple of them together. When are you doing a turbo flathead? I do have a flathead available to me to run. Yeah, the Rotella stuff seems to work. Are you going to do a dyno pull for us live? I wish I could. I'll try to set that up maybe for tomorrow, but the motor's not ready to run. I still have some other stuff I have to do to it. I was in the process of putting the heads back on. Yeah, I don't know about a turbo flathead. These are flatheads I think that the guy races. Whatever happened to the Consulier? I remember racing against those with the 2.2 Chrysler motors in them. I don't know about springs for that cam. Matt probably has a spring recommendation for that best cam. Oh, that's not good having different bore sizes in the same motor. I've run a motor like that before, but only because we had to. Coil unplug flathead. Does it really need that for 50 horsepower or whatever it's going to make? I would like to do the Summit cams. I need to talk to Brian over there. The Summit 4 cams, the letter cams. We normally run a 530 oil in most of the stuff. Yeah, I'd be surprised if the spring kit isn't a beehive. If someone's building their first project, where do you start? I always start at the wrecking yard for the motor that I want, obviously. And then you just look on Craigslist for some kind of vehicle that you want to put it in. The vehicle is going to be a subjective choice because you're going to want something that you want. You're going to want a Fairmont or, you know, a Viper or whatever, a truck, whatever it is you want to put in. And then I get the motors at the wrecking yard. Ever had dual springs tear off the tip of the valve? No, because if you did that, you might be getting into coil bind or something. The spring rate would very rarely do that. Never seen I think I got my stuff from AutoZone. Yeah, I like Fairmonts. I like Granadas too. Twin turbo 454 and a 65 Coupe de Ville. Somebody asked a question about a 5.7 liter cam test. I don't know what happened with those two cams. I would like to go back and retest them. Oh, not the tip of the valve, tearing off the valve guide seal. Yeah, then you're running into a retainer to seal clearance problem. I would like to test the Nissan and the Toyota engines, but I just, you know, there's so many other things that I can test before that. What are your thoughts on CompCam's big block roller lifters? We use them a lot here, but we don't drive them around a lot, so. Given the amount of boost that we're making in this motor, I mean, it's only making about 10 pounds right now. So it can definitely use a pulley upgrade. I haven't gone any smaller than a 3-inch pulley yet. We have the 2.6, and that's the next one. That's the only other one that I have. So we'll try to run that. I just need to grind down the snout a little bit. The Summit Pro LS stuff works pretty good. There's lots of good cams and lots of good parts out there, just sometimes finding them now. When would a solid cam be wanted over a hydraulic roller? On an LS, I would never want one because I don't ever run at 9,000 RPM where I think that would be beneficial. But on a big block, we run them a lot. I kind of would like to do an Iron Duke. People talk about it and badmouth it a lot. I'd just like to run one and see how much fun it was. Hydraulic rollers seem to do about everything that we need on most street and performance engines. Solid stuff for, you know, high RPM, regardless of the engine family. Uh, 26 degrees with a 2.6 pulley, that seems like a lot of timing on E85. The Big Bang motors were to find out, the original one was to find out how much power the stock bottom end would take. What was the limit of the power that it would take? Should I upgrade the injectors on my stock 5.9 Magnum if I'm going to use a tuner to play with it? You don't have to, because the stock injectors are probably big enough to give you some leeway if you're doing any kind of performance mods. If all you're doing is tuning it, you don't need bigger injectors for that. You can just use the stock ones. Where do you mount a block pressure sensor? We don't do that on the dyno. Yeah, we did run, we only had a 3-bar map sensor on the 6-liter that we ran, and we just ran it to the end of the map sensor, and that's as much as it, we didn't blow that motor up. It was still live. I've run it, it's still sitting out here. I've run it a lot. I'm sure it has 400 or 500 pulls on it under boost. When are you going to do a big bang on a 5.9 Magnum? I just want to get the Magnum run and test it. I have a lot of stuff like we did with this 3800. I want to do heads and cams and intakes and obviously boost on the Magnum. The Magnum really isn't a good candidate for a big bang, I don't think. I just think people would just be happy about running boost on it. This is a good question. What is your procedure for pre-lubing a freshly built LS engine? Well, we do it on the dyno. Obviously, we put oil on everything before it goes on the dyno. And then we put oil in, we fill the filter up, we put that on, we cap all of the vacuum lines, and then what we do is we use air pressure that we have from the nozzle in the dyno. We have no spark plugs in it. We put oil or put air pressure in the crankcase through the dipstick hole, and we pressurize the oiling system until we see about 2 pounds on the gauge, and then we crank over the motor using the starter, again with no plugs in it. And then what happens is the oil pump, the gerotor pump that's in the front, because it has pressure, and a lot of times if you do it for long enough, the oil is already going up in there. So by doing that, the oil pump grabs oil immediately, and then and obviously when you put the oil pump on, you don't ever put an oil pump on dry. The oil pump has assembly lube, works really good. You can use oil, but I like to use assembly lube because it seems stickier and it seems to grab better. It's probably just a personal thing. It's probably no difference. But the oil pump grabs the oil immediately, and then we see oil pressure on the gauge because we have the line from the engine hooked up to the dyno, and we see oil pressure, and then we know under cranking that the thing should be at, like, under cranking speed with a starter, we have about 40 to 45 pounds of oil pressure, and when we see that, we know that it's right, and we just spin it and get oil pressure basically to everything, and then it's free to start. And we've had some instances where we've tried that and there was no oil pressure. And so we had to stop and take the motor apart. What reviews and experience with AccuSumps? I think we used one in a road race Mustang that I had, particularly because we were running on part of an oval and we thought it was important, and it is beneficial. Yeah, if you have a dry sump, it's a lot easier. When any of the motors have dry sumps, they just spin the dry sump pump and you get oil to everything. We normally do that with like a small block or a big block, whatever. We have a priming tool that we hook to the drill. We spin the oil pump. We take the distributor out, spin the oil pump until we have oil. And the way that we gauge that, then we rotate the motor by hand, and we get oil to all of the rockers. Once we have oil to all of the rockers, we know that everything is lubed, and then we're free to, especially if it's a hydraulic roller, then we go back, and normally I like to adjust the valves after we've pumped the lifters up. That way we know that it's accurate. Where do you tap into for a mechanical oil pressure gauge on the LS? What we normally do, because it's convenient, is back where the oil sending unit is, right behind the intake manifold. We take that out. We have a fitting that we screw in that just goes to what is it? A tapered oil fitting, and then we just hook that up to the dyno. What do you think about ITBs on motors? I've run lots of IR setups and it works good. It's more the runner length than it just having individual throttles on it. Texas in the house. Somebody was asking about formulas for valve sizes. I couldn't read the whole thing. The fitting on the back of the thing for the oil sending unit, is it an NPT or is it? I didn't think it was a standard one. Punks in the house. We're still waiting on getting back the 2.2 turbo. We have also used, on the LS motors, we've also used the block above the oil filter. We've drilled and tapped those for a fitting. We've run the oil off the side of the block. It just depends. The big block Chevys are worth building an 8100 or stick with a 454. The 8100 is going to be more expensive to do ultimately. Obviously, you're already starting out with displacement, so it's nice. You can put a stroker kit in the 454, and there's just more parts for it. What's a good place for a back pressure sensor? I've moved them all around in the exhaust before the turbo, and there didn't seem to be much difference. We have it in the bend right before the turbo. Scott's in the house. If you just got here, it's almost too late. Have you done any testing on valve sizes? I don't know that I look at valve size as a thing. We look at head flow for whatever kind of power we want, and a lot of times I don't even look at that. Like for an LS, for a junkyard LS, I don't even concern myself with that. I concern myself with the NA power output and then the boosted power output, and then size the thing accordingly, and that has nothing to do with valve sizes. I would like to put bigger valve, like upgraded valves, I think on the 3800 heads. I think it might benefit from that. Now I'm really excited about doing the intake swap, running the NA intakes. I want to go back in here, and now I want to see if one of these lids, what's the preferable 5.3 liter model? Well, an L33 is really good, so is an LC9, because both of those are aluminum. Ugh. Tripping over myself here. So, we want to see if kind of looks similar, right? So does anybody know, are these things interchangeable? Dang. It kind of fits like a glove. So somebody chime in and let me know why. Where are we stuck up on that? No, I think that. it's the... Let's see here. Well, it might be that I just don't have the gasket on there. So let's put that on there and see. So that seems to go right on there. Well, that would... Wow, that's a lot going on there. My camera froze up for a second because it's trying to tell me it was getting low. But this goes right on. This goes right on both of them. So that would make swapping a lot easier. The intakes look the same. Why did nobody tell me about this before I went to the wrecking yard and had to take off all this stuff? But the fuel rails are different though. I think the fuel rails are different, aren't they? Yeah, the fuel rails are definitely different. Oh no, they're not. I had it in the wrong hole. Even the fuel rails bolt on. So those are the same. Wow. Fancy. So maybe I can get away with just doing one of these. This will be cool. Well, that will be nice. That's even more testing. Yeah, that would be nice if they would bolt on forward or backward. That would be kind of cool. The bolt patterns are symmetrical. Has anybody tried to flip it around? I'm going to see if it will bolt on the other way. I think that the intake itself will actually bolt on the other way. We'll bolt onto the heads that way. Because those two are going to be those two. Well, we just wouldn't have EGR, it looks like, but that's okay. We don't care about that. Well, that has me wondering. Yeah, I think it'll work. The alternator accessory drive won't fit if you flip it. Oh, because of the thermostat. Yeah, I can see that. How does that look up here? Oh yeah, that would definitely be problematic. Yep. Yeah, that would be a problem. Dang accessories. Yeah, if you got rid of that stuff, got rid of the accessories and stuff, that would be okay. Okay, guys, 2 more minutes. Man, this has been a long one. No, I'm way too short. The 262 cam is fine for your small block Chevy. Make a box blown and mount a carb on it. I could weld on an open or a divided carburetor adapter. I could, machine out a hole at the top of the blower plant and put a carburetor on it. What's the max power on a 5-liter with stock injectors? Does anybody know what a 5.3 injector is? I think it's only like a 25-pound injector or something, so you can't make very much power. You can make 400 NA horsepower, so like 340 or 350 or something with boost. It's not going to be very much. When are you going to test the truck Norris cam? I don't know. Noodles, I did receive the 2x2 head. Why would you try to run a 5.3, a turbo 5.3 on stock injectors? That doesn't make any sense. You need to have bigger injectors in it. 350. I don't know if I don't think injectors have markings on them to tell you what the flow is. You might be able to see that from a part number. Man, that'll make testing these intakes convenient if I can just swap the tops off of them. And I only have to clean one of them now. Carb 3800 Q-Jet. Yeah, get bigger injectors. Don't try to run. I mean, if you want it, you could go OG and put a ported 2.2 head for the GLH. Do you got it? I don't have a ported head. The David Weizart's doing one though. I do need a crossfire intake manifold. Are AUS injectors a decent brand? I don't know. I don't remember using those. Florida. Okay, David. So that they are the same? Okay, cool. So they're molded to fit the upper. So I just put each one in the upper and I could use the same lower. That'll be great. I think the market for carbureted 3.8 3800s is probably pretty low. The Gen 6 454 should not have a mechanical fuel pump, boss. Have you ever done anything with a 260 V8? Are you talking about a Ford? I don't think we've ever run one of those. How often you do these Tech Talk videos? I try to do them every night, so I'm always here. I run an SU carburetor. That'd be good. You use a Weber side draft with an adapter. Yeah, just get a set of 80 decas or something like that. Holly still sells a lot of carburetors. You can run nitrous on a high mileage engine. We've done it on lots of them. The 260 that came in a Buick Skylark. Oh, okay, I definitely haven't run one of those. What's a Skinner Union? Tom's out. Yeah, actually, when we run nitrous on motors, and we run nitrous on junkyard motors, they seem to seal up better after we run nitrous on them. Holly is getting away from carburetors? That would seem odd. How do you know you're out of injector or fuel pump? You see a drop in fuel pressure if you're out of pump. If you're out of injector, the ECU usually tells you that because you're at 100% duty cycle. The stock crank will work fine for 8,000 RPM. Can water methanol help nitrous with an octane booster? It can reduce the chance of detonation, if that's what your question is. I don't have any shirts right now, but or hoodies or any merchandise at all. But that's part of what I'm planning for 2022. Big plans. David, you should, if you're putting a tattoo of somebody on your back, it should be somebody like Salma Hayek. You think a boosted 5.9 can make 1,000 horsepower and live? I don't know. I've never even run one. Never run one under boost. We all need boost t-shirts. I agree with that. I wouldn't do any head porting on the big block because I'm not really a head porter, but That's your going up. Joe Boo needs a refill. The dinosaur, yep. Hashtag wrong cam. Hash brown. Yeah, don't touch the third rail. I don't know if Calvin has put the ported head on his 4200 or not. I'll have to give him a call. Okay guys, time to get going. I have lots of work to do. Obviously I got to get this thing running with the ported heads. Now we have some cool intake stuff to do, so I'll be doing that tomorrow. And I'm excited about running running a turbo on this thing and getting to see that kind of boost. And then eventually maybe a different ported head and definitely a different camshaft. And then big bang. Then it needs to go away and I need to do other stuff. I'm sure everybody's tired of seeing 3800 videos. I gotta do some different stuff. Thank you guys all for showing up. I will see you all tomorrow.